Hello, 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 and thank you so much for joining me today on the Community Ledger. I have got to share the news because I am so excited. It looks like the Supreme Court has shut down all of these liberal judges trying to make Trump bring migrants back to America. Let's take a look. Yes, yes, yes. I am so excited. I was so thrilled to hear that the Supreme Court gave Donald Trump a win. Again, thank you so much for joining me today on the Community Ledger. My name is Andrea Banu, and if you have not already, please do go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to support the channel, please do go ahead and follow the link in the description and get your girl a cup of coffee. And so, yes, I did a video a couple days ago where I was going in on the fact that you had all of these Democrats, all of these lawyers, all of these crazy people on the left demanding that the Trump administration bring deported migrants back. Yes, a lot of these men were MS-13 gang members, Trinde Aragua, criminals, all kinds of people, unsavory people that the Trump administration and ICE deemed a threat to our safety and to our country and deported. And you had crazy liberal judges demanding that somehow he goes back to El Salvador and get these people and bring them back. It was insanity. And it looks like it went all the way to the high court and the Supreme Court shut it down. Let's take a look.
The U.S. Supreme Court has handed the Trump administration a major victory. It ruled Trump is allowed to use a wartime authority to deport alleged Venezuelan gang members. Now, all of this is after Washington, D.C. Circuit District Judge James Boasberg tried to block the president. The court also ruled the appropriate venue for these kinds of proceedings would be in Texas or wherever the plaintiffs are being held.
I'm sorry. I am really celebrating this win. This is a win for Jocelyn Nongari, for all of these women, all of these victims. There's so many others who's Laken Riley, whose names we don't even know because they haven't put it on national television like these two cases. But I know there are so many more, and my condolences go out to those families. This is a victory. This is a win for all of those victims and just the safety of American citizens. As unfortunate as it is, it did not appear that the Democratic Party could give a damn about the well-being of women and children in this country. And so I am just so grateful that somebody on that Supreme Court had enough common sense to say, listen, these people need to be deported. The presidency, the executive branch is the highest honor, and we cannot have any of these lower courts, and judges demanding that that this president just acquiesce and just do what they want, and just actually bring deported people who should not have been here in the first damn place back to this country and cause havoc, cause crime, cause chaos in our communities. It is such a win for the women and children here in America, and I am ecstatic. I am ecstatic.
As a result, then Judge Boasberg had to cancel his D.C. planned hearing on the case today. And the president posted the U.S. Supreme Court has upheld the rule of law in our nation by allowing a president, whoever that be, to be able to secure our borders and protect our families and our country itself. A great day for justice in America.
Amen.
Trump's administration is also taking a victory lap. Watch.
A monumental, colossal victory for the rule of law.
A massive victory for law and order and for our constitutional republic and the sovereignty of the United States of America.
A landmark victory for the rule of law. And this is what we've been arguing on behalf of President Trump from day one. These are enemies of our state, of our country, and they should be deported.
Republican Congressman Chip Roy of the great state of Texas, member of the Judiciary, Budget, and Rules Committees. Welcome. Great to have you in focus. First of all, I just want to get your reaction to a couple of victories, really, for the administration.
Well, first of all, this important ruling from the Supreme Court reset the table with respect to the activism, the blatant activism by Boasberg. Now, let's keep in mind what the court said. The court said that, look, He had no business doing this from the District of Columbia. This is a flight that was originating in Texas to remove people that are being rightfully removed because they're a danger to our country. Now, pause for a second. How do I know that they're a danger to our country, Harris? 47 people affiliated with Tren de Aragua were just caught literally in Dripping Springs, Texas, not far from where I live. This is a real issue throughout Texas because of the absolute devastation that the Biden administration wreaked upon the United States and its people. So now President Trump is doing the right thing to remove these dangerous gang members. And this activist judge inserted himself. Now, the good news is the Supreme Court said, no, you don't get to do that. This should have been done in Texas. And there's a process for doing this, and that the law is good law. My concern is that Amy Coney Barrett didn't follow the majority. So there was one that voted the wrong way. My other concern is that they said there needs to be a reasonable time for these folks to be able to go appeal their case, which means it's going to go back to habeas cases, which means there's going to be a churn on these cases. So it's good news, but it's not something that we should take to the bank without changing. That's why, as the chairman of the Constitution Subcommittee, we had a hearing about legislation that we need to move through the House to limit some of the abuses that are taking place with these nationwide injunctions by these rogue judges.
Congressman, you and I have had this conversation before about the first law breaking was coming across the border illegally, and then other acts potentially, and maybe even the previous, gangster membership for some of these people. My question is, if you're going to get habeas corpus, if you're going to have the ability to appeal, what exactly are you appealing? Because you came here illegally. You've already broken the law.
Right.
Well, that is my view, and I think we should take that view as a country. I want to be very clear. The President of the United States is completely correct, and he's following his role as Commander-in-Chief to defend the United States of America, to then act and remove these dangerous actors. Remember, Jocelyn Nungare died last summer at the hands of Tren de Aragua. Cindy Romero was testifying in my committee of all the dangers that she was exposed to in the apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado. This is real. And as I said, in my backyard, literally in Dripping Springs, Texas, just last week, 47 people, including 9 children, by the way, in what we believe was a stash house. This is real, and the president deserves great latitude to remove these individuals. What will happen is leftist groups, frankly, often funded because Congress is stupid and funds money to these, NGOs, and they use that to then fund this litigation. They will take these cases to court and they'll say, oh, no, they were rightfully released into the United States and they deserve their day in court to prove that, in fact, the paroles and the asylum cases that the Biden administration abused to release these dangerous criminals on our streets is something that should prevent them from being removed. But the president is correct to remove these dangerous folks under his powers as commander-in-chief.
Rightfully, you can let them go across the country, but they broke in to get in.
Correct.
Wow. Well, you just mentioned those rogue judges. Let's go deeper on that. The House is actually set to vote on the No Rogue Ruling Act today, and it aims to limit the power of so-called radical district judges and restrict them from issuing nationwide injunctions against executive orders. In fewer than 3 months, judges have already blocked Trump's order 17 times.
Wow.
That's more than the injunctions issued during the terms of his
See, look at this. Look at this. And that's what I said. This has nothing to do with wanting to protect Americans. This is all about wanting to undermine Trump. They don't even give a damn about the migrants. The only thing they really want to do, the Democrats that is undermine Trump. And if American citizens get hurt in the midst of it, they don't give a damn. If women and children are trafficked, they don't give a damn. Women and children are trafficked at that border all the time. Tom Homan has told us the numbers and the statistics. Democrats don't give a damn, but they will sit up here and say they care about women's rights. They care about children. They don't care about anything except themselves and undermining Trump. Look at this. Look at this screen. Nationwide injunctions issued by federal district courts against recent presidents. Only 6 for Bush, 12 for Obama, 86 for President Trump. Now, 28 for Biden. Biden was the one that created this mess. He is the one that created this cluster F that is our immigration system right now. And now Trump is trying to clean it up. And these rogue judges are trying to stop him at every corner. It's insane. It is insane.
recent predecessors. Here's Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey.
that has gotten to the point of they believe they're the legislators, they believe they're the executive branch, they believe they're judicial branch, and some of them have extremely partisan messages to deliver, and that's not what their job is.
Right.
Be the judicial branch, do what you're supposed to do.
So the No Rogue Ruling Act, what will it accomplish?
Yeah, well, we will vote on that today, along with the SAVE Act, which was my bill to guarantee.
You see that? Like I said, this man ain't playing. He said, okay, we're going to have the Supreme Court rule on this, and then we're going to roll out some new legislation so that moving forward, these rogue judges cannot waste our time with all this nonsense. We don't have time for this. So go ahead, pass a law, do whatever you need to do now that the Republicans have the majority in the Senate and in the House so we can get this done. Stop this chaos from happening. How is a judge in DC going to try to overthrow an executive order by the president of the United States in regards to deportations that are happening in Texas? This is out of line. This is crazy. So of course the Supreme Court had to come in and step in. But now Trump has his people that's like, listen, get on it. Go ahead and roll out some new legislation so we can vote on it and keep this from ever happening again. Because a lot of people are going to be pissed off at me a couple of weeks from now and a year from now and 2 years from now. And I don't need to have none of this drama, period.
That only citizens vote in American elections. These are two important pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
This bill would stop these nationwide injunctions by saying that they should only apply to the parties before the judge. But then it allows, in the instance where there's a case where you have two attorneys general in different states that want to appeal and go up to a 3-judge panel, they can say, wait, this ought to be a nationwide injunction, and then it would go immediately to the Supreme Court. This would stop a single judge from being able to unilaterally make law effectively by stopping action by issuing an injunction or a TRO, but would force it through a process that makes more sense. It is a good bill. We passed it out of the Judiciary Committee. I hope we will move it on the floor this week and send it over to the Senate, but then we'll look for all of the obstruction that we'll normally get out of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. But our job is to do our work in the House and send it to the Senate. We think this is an important move to preserve the ability to go to court, but not allow a single judge like Boasberg, who was just slapped down by the Supreme Court for getting out of his lane.
Right.
We don't want to have that happen in the future, and this legislation would try to prevent that.
You know, in normal circumstances, you would have a situation where other district and circuit court judges would look at that and say, well, if they're going to slap him down, why even start the game? But this is not normal. They want to slow down the president of the United States, even if they can't stop him. Your last quick word.
Well, this is an emergency, and Stephen Miller's been dead on point on this. The commander-in-chief has the ability and the power to defend our country. We have radical, dangerous, illegal people in the United States affiliated with dangerous gangs, cartels, moving drugs, killing Americans. They need to be removed. And frankly, after the millions of people released in the United States, the president needs deference to do that, and we ought to move as Congress to back him up on that.
Yeah, you would think that we as Americans could all agree on kicking the worst out first. Congressman, great to see you always. Thank you.
God bless you, Harris.
Hey, everyone.
Awesome. More great reporting from Fox. As always, they give it to you straight, no filter. They don't play all those games. They don't do all this silliness. It's just straight direct. This is what it is. This is what the American people want. This is what we're trying to accomplish, and we don't have time to be playing. We were playing and BSing and robbing the people and putting people's safety in compromising people's safety. The last 4 years, a lot more nonsense. He's like, just get it done. Get it done. We need to get it done. And I mean, he's got a small window of time to do it. And I celebrate every step of the way. But what is your opinion? How do you feel? How do you feel about the Supreme Court giving Trump a win? Do you genuinely feel like that judge was right? Do all of these deportees deserve their day in court to get, due process, so to speak? Or should Trump just get him out of here? I would love to hear your opinions. So go ahead and let me know how you feel about all of this in the comments. And so again, if you have not already subscribed, please do so right now, share and like. And thank you so much for joining me again on the Community Ledger. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe and watch the next video by clicking right here.